Yo, whoa, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a brand new video today, and today we are diving into an updated new Pokemon Unite tier list video. Some of you guys checked out my last one on the channel, but that was actually made from the beta, from the Japanese beta. So we are back here with a new tier list. Now the game's been out for a few days, but I am not here alone, okay? Listen, I assembled a team of top tier Pokemon Unite players, and we evaluated these Pokemon, and we're gonna break them down for you guys so you guys have an accurate and updated tier list reflecting the Pokemon Unite launch on the Switch right here, right now. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like the video down below, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new for Pokemon videos every single day. And please take a second out of your day and check the description below and go drop a follow or a subscription to both of these legends joining me on this call. First up, we've got JJ-kun, who is a caster, an esports caster, and he actually made the spreadsheets. So if you know about the Unite spreadsheets, you know about JJ, and he was also the #1 Garchomp during the Canadian beta. What's going on, JJ? How you doing, man?
Hey man, welcome and thank you for having me in this video. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I've been telling people on Twitter that I'm not going to be making any tier lists until the release of the game, and now the game has been released. We've seen some plays here, and I think I'm ready to do this thing.
I'm excited to have you on here, and joining myself and JJ is going to be Peak. Now, Peak, I actually shouted out in a previous video. I'm sure some of you guys went and checked him out, and I recommend you guys go check him out as he's making some amazing Pokemon Unite content as well. But Peak was the #1 Greninja during the beta as well, and briefly at the release of Pokemon Unite. And then he started solo queuing. At least that's his excuse. But he's a top-tier Greninja player and much, much
that is
more.
my excuse.
Peak, what's going on, man?
What's going on? Yo, thanks so much for having me. It's a super exciting thing. Happy to talk about all these Pokemon and kind of let the community know what we think is the best ones right now. So yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited.
That's it. Well, I'm super stoked to have both of you guys. So again, thank you guys for taking the time to come on and be a part of this awesome video with us. And again, we actually discussed every single Pokemon that we're going to tier in this video. Prior to film this video, we came to a consensus. We hammered it out over the last hour or so, discussing everything. So we're going to give you guys our concise thoughts right here, right now. The official Pokemon Unite tier list graded by us three. Let's jump into it. Let's make it happen, and let's tell you guys who the best Pokemon are to use in Pokemon Unite. Side note and disclaimer, we're grading these Pokemon based on a handful of different factors: how good they are early game, how good they are late game, kind of where they stand in terms of their role, whether they're a support role or a defender role, or maybe they're kind of an all-arounder. So we're trying to take into account all of these different factors. I think it's important to remember that a good team is what's most important, and having a cohesive unit that's working together to accomplish the objective of scoring the most points is ultimately going to come out on top. So if you get absolutely mollywopped by a Venusaur and we rate it really low, spoilers, don't come complaining to us, okay? You just need to play better with your team. There you go. There's your disclaimer. We're gonna kick things. You guys have anything to say about that?
No, it's not our fault if you lose on Venusaur.
It's not our fault if you guys lose on Venusaur. So without further ado, I will start talking about Venusaur, and Venusaur gets the honor of coming in at D tier. And obviously some of these ratings are going to be different than our previous tier list because a lot changed from the betas, guys. Like, seriously, a lot changed. And we'll talk about some of that here as we kind of move along. But Venusaur, there's a D tier. We're going to use it in this video. Venusaur is very, very underwhelming. In fact, when you compare it to the other attackers in the game, it simply does not hold up. Early game, it is pretty strong with things like Razor Leaf and Seed Bomb, so it does have some early game potential. But when you get to that mid and late game, it's simply its power output does drop off. There is a little bit to be said about Petal Dance and Giga Drain and maybe holding a point here or there, but ultimately we just feel that Venusaur doesn't stack up with the rest of the attackers in the game. It falls off too early, and it's not able to compete in that late game. You're not going to set it to jungle, so it's not going to be really fed. So ultimately, Venusaur starts this video off in D tier.
Alright, for Gengar, it is actually going to be on the S tier. I'm not sure if you guys are going to be putting it down to A tier, B tier, C tier, but in our opinion, this is one of the best characters in the game right now. I'd have to say that it is comparable to the Canada Beta's Absol, where the raw power is just different. Even in the early game, it has, like, you know, you could hook in your opponents coming in, you know, what do you call this? You can just pick off your opponents, and from there it just kills. And even so, when it gets its sludge and hacks, that combination of moves is just really amazing for the Gengar, and it just makes Gengar pop off. And then there goes the Phantom Ambush as well. And man, this is the sludge bomb. Sludge and hacks is just really working out well for Gengar. It doesn't matter what team composition is, as long as Gengar has these kind of composition as its kit, it's going nowhere. It's S tier all day long.
Mr. Mime! Mr. Mime! Mr. Mime!
Okay, so for Mr. Mime, we actually put it in C tier. We do think it actually does some damage now. It was significantly buffed, especially in this release patch that we have with the game just coming out fresh. The combination of confusion, knocking someone into your barrier is just crazy, the amount of damage you can do. Its Unite move is super strong with a targeted leap. That's always going to do a lot, where you can just kind of jump into a team and it stuns them multiple times on a pulse. So Mr. Mime really brings a lot to the battlefield in terms of its Unite move, but it just like falls off in other areas, doesn't quite provide the amount of support necessary to be warranted like being taken in a team of 5. When you really only have 5 slots on a team for Unite, you really want to have a solid pick in Mr. Mime. While it does have its good times, and that's why we did put it in C and not D, it just doesn't really match up to the rest of the support cast.
All right, so up next we have Snorlax, and Snorlax we're actually going to put in the S tier as the premier defender. Snorlax, if you've ever faced it, I'm sure you guys know this thing just simply never dies. I think a well-played Snorlax can absolutely devastate teams by performing incredible crowd control with its block attack, allowing it to basically push the enemy. I think it's one of the only characters in the game, if not the only character in the game, that can actually push the entire team off a scoring point, especially after Zapdos, and that in itself, I think, warrants a lot. But its survivability is incredible. It stays strong throughout the entire game. It's relatively strong early game, and it actually just continues to pick up. It has the ability to jump over things and slam down on things and stun, and it seems like the potential with Snorlax is really endless. And when it's kind of matched up against other characters in its class, it's definitely the best in its tier and its class. So we're gonna put Snorlax, big old Snorlax, in S tier.
Look at that!
It's an Absol!
Okay, so for Absol, we're going to put that in A tier, actually, because the damage, while not on the same ridiculously overtuned level as Gengar, Absol just has probably the strongest early game level 5 gank coming out of the jungle. Being able to go into a lane as a fully evolved Pokemon with just the ability to really chase down targets and lock them down with the different slows and just the multiple dashes that Absol has access to is just crazy for getting your team ahead early and pushing early advantages and early objectives like that. There's really just no jungler that's going to offer the same amount of early game pressure as Absol does. So that's what we put up.
Garchomp! Shine on!
And of course, Garchomp here. This is actually a really hard decision for us, but it is going into the B tier. Now, here's the thing though, like Garchomp is one of the best characters in the game, in the Canada beta, but after that, going into the Japanese network test, the Dragon Rush and Dragon Claw got changed of their slots and everything. Its damage output got nerfed. Its ability got nerfed as well. You know, it's now you know, the time for its basic attack stacks is now low as well. Basically, it's just overwhelming now. The Garchomp is really reliant on its teammate. It cannot solo anymore the objectives. I mean, it can solo objectives, but the time it goes online just takes too long. It needs level it needs level 6, you know, and before it gets to level 6, it's going to take, I don't know, 3 to 4 minutes if you don't have a proper support. So that is where we're putting Garchomp right now.
All right, up is my favorite lasagna crab, which I have played like over 100 games with. I've got a lot of Crustle experience, and I will say we were actually pretty torn between putting in A and B, but we did settle on the B tier for Crustle. Crustle has a handful of different sets that it can run, right? I've actually liked using Shell Smash and X Scissor. I think using Shell Smash, Rock Wall and X Scissor, Rock Tomb and X Scissor can be very strong. Be able to bash them into the walls, and similar to kind of what Snorlax can do in terms of pushing, you can also push the enemy with X Scissor, which is really good. I think that Stealth Rock is incredibly underrated. I don't see a ton of people running that right now, but I actually think the Stealth Rock set with Rock Tomb has some viability. It's very unique in what it does, but its power output is very much so lacking unless you're running all the different boosting items and you are able to get those Shell Smashes up. It can definitely hold a lane, so it's very, very strong at what it does, but it's definitely not at the same class as what Snorlax can do in terms of survivability. So while Crustle has some versatility in the various sets it can run, we feel that B tier was pretty solid for it.
Okay, so this is the character that everyone knows me for. I have a very detailed Greninja guide on my channel, but I am going to be fair here and put it in B tier because I generally think that Greninja is just not as strong as some of the other ranged carries, which we'll get to later. And what Greninja does bring to the table is a lot of versatility, a lot of outplay potential, and just a lot of sustain in a team fight through Water Shuriken. The ability to have stealth with Smokescreen is also really good, but unfortunately it has a trash Unite move, and the shields for the Unite move that normally activate when you initially use most Unite moves don't activate until Greninja's Unite move is all the way finished. So you really can like easily die if you go in with Greninja Unite move too aggressively, and yeah, there's just a few things that knock it down to B tier for general usage, but personally I think it's A tier if I'm playing it. So hey, that's what I'll say about Greninja.
All right, for Zeraora, this is a lot of people have been playing this. Of course, it is one of the 3 characters in the game, but we are going to put it on A tier. Now, see, a lot of people might think that this is one of the S tiers. Yes, the damage output for Zeraora is really, really great, but it is too squishy and it heavily relies on team response. If there's no team response, then even though Zeraora gets higher damage whenever it's low, if it's low, it's still low regardless, and it needs discharge as well, you know, to be able to pop in, and it takes it level 8. Even if you're gonna be playing it on jungle, it's taking a while for it to get to level 8, and at the same time, its basic attack speed is just too slow for it to be, you know, for it to get an easy XP, and from there, your opponent jungle might have been camping on your jungle before you could even get into level 8. So that is where we're putting Zeraora in our tier list, albeit of course it still has a very high damage.
Up next is everyone's favorite Fire Lizard Charizard, and this is a Pokemon that I feel like definitely kind of got some nerfs. I felt like it was stronger going into the beta from the Japanese beta, so we actually placed it in C tier. Very, very low for Charizard. This is something that I look to see tuned a little bit in the future. The problem with Charizard is Charmander is incredibly weak in the early game, and unless you're sending it to jungle, it takes, and even if you do, it takes so long to get to Charizard. If you have like a well-fed Charizard, like 2 levels above the opposing team, then yes, it can shred with its Unite move, and it can absolutely devastate opponents. It's got some really cool moves like Fire Blast, and actually you can even run Flare Blitz and Fire Punch and Flamethrower as its kind of final moves there. But ultimately, it just takes too long to get there, and there's just so many other Pokemon that can run that similar role, that all-arounder role, like Garchomp, that do that job better. And the next Pokemon we're going to talk about here, I think, is Lucario, which just kind of handle that role better, and Charizard just simply does not stack up to those. So unfortunately, it's going to sit next to Mr. Mime in C tier.
Okay, so Lucario is, in my opinion, and we kind of reached an agreement on this, Lucario is, I think, the best Pokemon in the game. I think it has the best outplay potential of any Pokemon in the roster right now. It has insane damage, and the thing that makes Lucario better than like anything else about it, like ignoring all the rest of the nice like resets that you can get on your different skills and things like that, Power Up Punch is the best skill to use in the game in order to last hit like very important objectives such as Zapdos, Rotom, Dreadnought, or even just like the neutral camps and the neutral wild Pokemon, around the map. Like even in a lane, in a jungle, I think it does best in lane because it is able to secure those last hits, which like it doesn't matter who does 99% of the damage on wild Pokemon, it really just matters who gets the last hit. And Lucario, there's really just no Pokemon that does that better throughout the entire length of the game than Lucario. So, you know, we won't go into super big detail about like all the crazy resets and things you can do with Lucario, but just know that in the hands of a skilled player and someone who knows what it does, Lucario is truly devastating.
All right, for Cinderace, this has been quite a difficult one for us as well, but we're gonna be putting it on A tier. Now, one of the reasons why we put it on H is that it has one of the best damage, long range damage in the game. You won't want to choose anyone else aside from Cinderace, and of course you're going to be playing it on the jungle. However, one of the things here for Cinderace from keeping it into getting into S tier is the time it gets into to get its hit. So it takes level 7 and level 8 for it to get its first move and its second move respectively. But other than that, it has the best long range damage. It has the best one of the best burst damage as well, and of course its very fast attack speed is just helping it out just to prop in some damage in, and that's why we're putting it on the A tier.
All right, so next character up is going to be Wigglytuff, which I would actually say is probably the second most played character that I've had next to Crustle. And I'm going to put it in C tier along with Charizard and Mime. Wigglytuff I do think has some potential, but this thing cannot survive on its own. Sing is what really allows Wigglytuff to shine, being able to put multiple targets to sleep, and it actually gets powered up as you level it up. The problem is its damage output is so lacking. Double Slap seems like you're like legitimately using a paper bag to attack the opponent, and Dazzling Gleam feels like you're throwing glitter at them and it's just not doing any damage. Wigglytuff on its own is just so bad. If paired with like the fed Pokemon from the jungle that's 2 levels above, yeah, putting things to sleep is phenomenal. But on its own, Wigglytuff just does not stand up to the competition right now. It's simply just super duper weak. And Rollout, I can't even take that seriously. You're just a pinball machine bouncing off of things, just basically begging to get trapped by something. Not a big, I mean, I like Wigglytuff, don't get me wrong. I really think Sing has a lot of potential, but right now I just don't think Wigglytuff can stand up with some of these other Pokemon. So it's gonna sit in C tier.
All right, so many of you are not going to be happy with this, but we are actually going to put Talonflame in the D tier. Someone had to go down here, and it unfortunately is Talonflame. Talonflame suffers from quite a few things. Probably the biggest one being just its overall squishiness. It has one of the lowest HP pools in the game. It has super low defenses. It just gets so easily blown up, and the issue is that just the play style of Talonflame doesn't really help your team at all. Like, you are able to dive around the map, fly around the map, fly over barricades and stuff, but none of that really brings any support to your team. And in a 5 versus 5 team game where objective play and playing together as a group is so important, Talonflame just doesn't bring a lot to team fights or objectives, really. It's really good for sneak attacks, really good for sneaky goals and back caps at the end of the game. So, if that's your kind of play style, you should definitely play it and ignore the fact that we put it in D tier. But personally, we just don't think it stacks up to other speedsters and just other junglers in general.
All right, so Crime Rider here. We're gonna be putting it on B tier. See, we've been seeing a lot of people use this character, especially in the early game. The reason why we're putting this in B tier is that in the late game, it doesn't really handle its own. and it's actually kind of squishy as well. However, in the early game, it's actually pretty massive for your team, especially when we have the Whirlpool. We've had the, of course, the Feather Dance, but at the same time, it also levels up and upgrades really quickly as well, level 6 and level 4, for you to be able to get the Surf and Hurricane. However, other than that, you know, getting into CCs, that's just its job. But other than that, you know, doing its job, it's pretty underwhelming. So that's why we're putting it on B tier.
Ninetales, you're up! All right. Aurora, fail.
All right, coming up next, we're actually gonna take Alolan Ninetales, one of my favorite Pokemon, and I'm actually gonna put this. We all decided that it is one of the premier Pokemon in the game, believe it or not. That is Alolan Ninetales. This Pokemon can do so many different things, and it's got such a diverse kit. One of the things that it has is passive, can kind of identify Pokemon hiding out in bushes. It's got Blizzard, it can slow things down, it can freeze things. It's got Avalanche, which can set up walls. It can support itself and its teammates with the Aurora Veil. This thing has pretty much the most diverse kit, really, in terms of what it can do and how it can change its kind of role. It's like almost like a supportive offensive character, and it can just do so much damage. And again, the ability to slow, the ability to freeze, it just works so well in team fights in different lanes. And I think that that's just, it has so many strong points to it, and that really allows Ninetales to kind of separate itself from some of the other Pokemon. So we definitely feel that it's very much so justified in the S tier.
Okay, so for Eldergoss, we actually think it falls in the A tier. Previously, I think a lot of people thought this Pokemon was just a must-take for every single team comp. However, I don't really think so anymore after playing a lot in just higher level lobbies and organized tournaments and stuff. I really think that while Eldergoss is super potent, it kind of doesn't provide as much support as you might think. The shields are really crazy, the heals are really nice for just staying healthy in a team fight. But at the end of the day, that's really all that Eldergoss provides, other than a very fantastic Unite move, of course, that can displace enemies and do kind of the same similar thing that Snorlax does with its block ability, kind of separating a enemy team from each other and kind of splitting it in half in a team fight, which obviously helps you get picks, but there are just like better picks in terms of supporters and people that have more crowd control access in terms of their kits, that I think Eldergoss is probably not like a must-take on every single team as maybe it was thought to be before.
There we go. For Pikachu, we are going to put it on A tier as well. This is one of the best Pokemon, I'd have to say, one of the best Pokemon in the game, especially its early game. You know, we have Electro Web, we could just root, you know, your opponents, and then after that, of course, we also have Thunderbolt and Thunder, which could be a huge stun into team fights. So definitely, not only does it have those hindrances, those CCs into team fights, but it also has the damage coming in from Thunder, or even Electro Ball is actually pretty useful as well when it has the AoE damage. And just from that, you know, and we also have the Unite move, by the way. We also have the Unite move, which is Thunderstorm, which deals a lot of damage, which is really helpful, especially when you're trying to take in the Zapdos into, you know, when there's a team fight in the Zapdos, and from there you can just like scale up and get in all the points afterwards.
All right, up next we've got Slowbro here, and we actually decided to put Slowbro also in A tier. Not quite to the level of Snorlax, but still an incredibly powerful Pokemon. Slowbro just never dies, and I actually made a joke before we started recording that there were two things in this game that frustrate me the most, besides Gengar, and it is Slowbro's telekinesis and Pikachu's Electro Web. I feel like being trapped like that is so frustrating, but Slowbro has a lot going for it. Telekinesis is probably the lesser of the two evils. Amnesia it just doesn't die, but really the thing that kind of separates Slowbro is Surf. It does it better than Cramorant. Its Surf can really allow it to deal a ton of damage, hit on the way back, and I think it even does healing, right, Peak? Is that it actually heals it?
Yeah, it heals. Every single way it heals Slowbro.
Because that's what Slowbro needs, right? It needs to heal. So Slowbro in itself, this thing doesn't die, and it can hold down a lane, and it can actually be really powerful in the late game. And I think its sustainability just allows it to kind of differentiate itself from a lot of the other Pokemon. So A tier it is for Slowbro.
Machamp.
The last but certainly not least is Machamp, going in the A tier here. We really felt Champ actually has a very potent kit all around. Its level 5 is incredibly strong, or is it level 6 or 5? I think it's submission. Whenever it gets submission, it's pretty early, and the ability to just walk into a lane, use submission, and just sumo throw a Pokemon down and really get a pick on anyone in a lane is just so good. Obviously, you'd probably want to go Machamp in the just is really probably the best spot for it, with its ability to get around the map quickly using the movement speed from bulk up / submission. Both of those moves just let it traverse the map very quickly for a jungler of this nature, a melee one. It doesn't have as many dashes as like an Absol, for example. However, it's you just the ability and the large hitbox of it, and it's just sheer force to catch out an entire team and just knock them and take them out of the fight, do a ton of damage to them, and probably execute quite a few Unite moves. Just that's why we put it in A tier. Just the damage output feels really nice for what it does right now, and just the ability to pick off targets using submission is really just really handy in a game like this where getting picks before big objectives.
All right, guys, so that is our definitive tier list for the launch of Pokemon Unite on Nintendo Switch. Now, obviously, these ratings are subject to change as the game could be tweaked, as we saw from the betas, and it's likely that they're going to do some testing and some tweaking, probably not until the mobile release, so keep an eye out for that. But ultimately, I want to thank my friends JJ and, of course, Peak for coming on the channel to give us this awesome, thorough breakdown. I highly encourage you guys to head to the description below and drop a subscription to both their channels, as they are creating amazing top-tier Pokemon Unite content. Thank you guys. You guys were phenomenal. Like I said, guys, smash that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I'll let you guys say anything you want to say here at the end. You guys were great. You got anything left, guys?
A button. Smash it. Obliterate it. Please. If you haven't. And thank you, aDrive, for having us on. It's been really fun.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys for joining. Thank you guys for watching this tier list video. Hopefully this helps you guys out, and we'll see you guys in Pokemon Unite. Peace.
Pikachu.